Welcome to an edition of the Jet Fuel Podcast, a special NFL draft edition of the show. We're also doing this live on YouTube. You can check it out there. A draft day miracle has occurred yet again for the New York Jets. I truly cannot believe it happened again, but Jamal Adams fell into the Jets' lap. Things got a little weird at the top of the first round, with the Chicago Bears trading one spot from number 3 to number 2 to take Mitchell Trubisky. And before you knew it, Jamal Adams, safety from LSU, is a New York Jet. And I don't think anybody expected that to happen. Max hinted at it in our last show, and I'm joined by my co-pilots. I should introduce them, Max Marcilla and Adam Zielonka. Max said in our previous show that, Jamal Adams would be the ideal fit for the Jets, the best pick. And Adam and I both kind of deadpanned it, saying it's not going to happen. Jamal Adams is going to be there. The Jets have even said in a previous report from an ESPN reporter that they didn't seem to expect Jamal Adams to be on the board by the time they were on the clock. So Max kind of saw it coming. So Adam, let's start with you. I mean, scale of 1 to 10, how shocking is it that Jamal Adams, who a lot of people believe is the safest, cleanest, best, maybe even best prospect in this draft, how shocked are you from a scale of 1 to 10 that he is going to be wearing the green and white next season?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm hovering around a 9, maybe close to a 10. I didn't think that this was a possibility at all. You alluded to our pre-draft podcast where I told Max that this was just not going to happen. And I mentioned that also today in my grade article, grading the pick. And, of course, you have to grade this an A. There are a lot of surprising things that happened after Cleveland took Myles Garrett. The Bears trading up one pick was one thing.
That was bizarre.
The Titans taking Corey Davis was even more bizarre to me because he wasn't necessarily considered the top receiver available, but the Titans had holes all around their secondary, and it was not just that Jamal Adams was available to the Jets, but every single defensive back prospect was available to the Jets. Ohio State's Malik Hooker, Ohio State's Marshawn Lattimore, and everybody else down the list were just a smorgasbord of available. Jets, take your pick, take the best guy. And they clearly thought the best guy was Jamal Adams. And I have to agree. And I think the fit is going to be interesting to watch going forward. But I don't have any qualms about how they spent this pick.
Yeah,
I want to take some time to brag?
Yeah, you deserve it.
Not even, because, last year I picked Jabril Peppers.
Peppers.
That shows where my mind is at right now.
He's watching the draft currently. We're on pick number 5, and the Browns just took Jabril Peppers. But
yes, Browns took the New Jersey prospect. Good. Not what I was trying to say at all. I said the Jets would take Darren Lee last year. I was correct. I saw that coming. This I didn't see coming. When I gave my pitch for Jamal Adams, it was more on the lines of, if he's here, take him. Like, that's a good pick. You got to take it.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't think he was going to be there. And the fact that he was there at number 6 for the Jets, just tremendous. Similar to what you saw with Cleveland and Myles Garrett, and a little bit of a different situation because I think Garrett is the best player in the draft. But when you have a guy who fills a position of need, who's a great talent and better than the other guys at that position, you got to go for him. A safe pick, a good player. And the Jets really did the smart thing. And I think it's hard to go against this Adams pick. You can still be for some other prospects. You can be a Malik Hooker fan. You can be a O.J. Howard fan. But I think at the end of the day, the Jets made a smart, safe pick at a position of need. I don't see how anyone can fault this pick.
So, Max, scale of 1 to 10, since you kind of alluded to it but didn't really – you and Adam both said Malik Hooker would be the pick in a story we did leading up to the draft, making our predictions. How shocked are you then on a scale of 1 to 10? Adam's a 9. I'm like a 9.5.
I would go a little less than that. I would say 7, but between a 6 and a 7. I definitely thought it was a possibility. I just didn't think that if it happened, it would be the way it happened. I thought it would be more along the lines of Tennessee would take Marshawn Lattimore, and Jonathan Allen would go in the top 5, and maybe a quarterback snuck his way in there, but probably not even that way. So how shocked am I in how the first 6 picks turned out? 10, maybe 9, 10. How shocked am I that the Jets got Adams? Maybe a 6, maybe 7. But the bottom line is, weird start to the draft outside of Garrett, but things worked out for the Jets. What can you say?
Yeah, I don't think anybody saw the Bears trading up one spot to get Mitchell Trubisky. And
That was weird.
I mean, we all kind of laughed at it.
That was weird. They traded a lot to get a guy who I personally think was going to be there at 3. Now, obviously, I'm not on the phone and in the office. Of course, it could have been something along the lines of Bears get on the phone with the Niners and they say, we're taking Trubisky unless you want to make a deal. That's kind of what I would guess is happening. But in my mock draft and in many, many experts' mock drafts, they had Solomon Thomas going too, which would have left the Bears with their pick of anyone outside of Garrett and Thomas. And, you know, I can't imagine that that's the possibility because the Bears gave up a lot to jump one spot and take their guy. Gave up a 3rd round in this year's draft. And what is it, 3rd and a 5th this year and a 3rd next year?
3rd and a 4th in 2017 and then a 3rd round pick in 2018.
Right, that's a lot. I mean, 3rd round.
Swap 2 and 3.
3rd round, you can still get a quality starter. I mean, you look at a guy, I know it's my school, but Yannick Ngakoue last year, the Maryland product, who was a really good starter with Jacksonville this year. I think he had several sacks or something. You get starters in the 3rd round. The fact that you're giving up 2 of those picks, one this year, one next year, to move up one spot, that's a tough decision to make. I'm not so sure I agree with it. Forget the prospect. That's a tough move to make, period. But the Jets lucked out, and the Jets, and I would say the 49ers were the 2 biggest benefits of what happened in the first 6 picks.
You can't really complain how it went for San Francisco to move one spot down and get a guy who you probably were going to take at number 2 anyways. I think in the end, I think San Francisco bluffed its hand a little bit. I think they might have threatened, another team was willing to make a move up because we had heard Cleveland, maybe Arizona was interested in moving up to get Trubisky. Or I think, someone, the Bears the Bears negotiated them against themselves to get Mike Glennon when they signed him in the offseason. So yeah. I think they got duped in some way. But yeah, I mean, the Bears were the team who I thought would be where Adams ultimately landed at number 3. So, I mean, once you threw them out of the equation, you didn't think I didn't think the 49ers were going to take him anyways. You didn't think the Jaguars were going to take him, and they ended up taking Leonard Fournette. And I thought, okay, if he gets past the Titans, then you got to take him. And thankfully the Jets did. I'm more shocked even just that the Jets really had the pick of some of their greatest, the best players at the greatest needs for the Jets. I mean, they had Jamal Adams on the board. Right. Marshawn Lattimore was still on the board. Even if they went quarterback, Deshaun Watson was still on the board. Malik Hooker, who didn't go till 15th overall. O.J. Howard, who didn't go till 19. They had so many players who would have fit needs right away and been really good additions. And I think they picked the best one. Adams was number 1 on that big board I tweeted earlier from @RealMattBarbato and @NewYorkJetFuel. But yeah, the Jets had a lot of – even if Adams wasn't on the board, they could have made a good pick. I mean, that's just how weird those first 5 selections went.
Right, and as far as I think the other bizarre pick in the top 6 that no one saw coming was Tennessee, taking the wide receiver Corey Davis. And I actually love the fit, and – I think if you take a step back from it and say, well, if you put Corey Davis on the Titans team, it's a great fit and you're really happy with that. I think it might be a reach at 5, but also look, if you love your guy, he's going to be a good fit. If he turns out to be a good player and pans out and works well with Marcus Mariota and is a red zone threat that everyone expects him to be, well, no one's going to say, oh, well, you reached for him at 5. So I can't fault that pick. Definitely bizarre, but I'm not going to fault it. And then the Jets just in a perfect situation. So it really worked out for the Jets. They did the safe thing. They did the smart thing. And look, we've talked about trading down, getting more prospects when you have so many needs. But if there's a guy who you think can be a culture changer on a defense, which I think Adams is one of 2 or 3 prospects that can change one side of the ball. I would say Fournette can change an offense. And then I would say Garrett and Adams can change a defense. Yeah. And when you get one of those guys to fall in your lap at 6 and you take them, that's it. It's a good day 1 for McCagnon.
Completely off topic, but my dad, a Seahawks fan on the East Coast, stayed up all night to wait for the Seahawks pick at 26. And once again, just like in recent years, Seattle was traded down and the Falcons have moved up to take Takaris McKinley at 26.
Yeah, so we're still doing this as the draft is going on. We don't think the Jets are going to do anything to jump back into the first round. And we'll talk about what they might do in the second round because there's a lot of good prospects still available at the moment. I would like to just hear you guys' grades on this pick. Adam, you wrote the story for nyjetfield.com. What was your grade on it? And, why did you give the grade that you gave?
It couldn't go higher than an A. I don't think any grade really deserves an A plus. No, I don't think so. I think that Maccagnan got – you can't give Maccagnan 100% of the credit for Adams falling into his lap. You have to give them credit, though, for staying put, not getting antsy, not trading back when all of us sort of thought trading back might be a good idea. I know, Matt, you had the column about trading back being the perfect scenario for the Jets. But holding pat staying put or holding pat turned out to be a good thing to do.
It was the dream scenario. It was that's what I wrote in my column, was that Jamal Adams was the dream. But dreams are very far from reality. At least perfection can be achieved occasionally. But yeah, as you were saying, standing pat worked, and it worked to the best possible degree.
How many nights a year do we get to really enjoy being a Jets fan? When they hit a home run on a draft pick like this, or Leonard Williams 2 years ago at the same spot, number 6, seeing what pretty much everybody agreed was the best prospect in that year's class, fall to 6 into the Jets' lap. These are the nights that we can cherish, because September comes around and we're going to be bemoaning a 3-13 year. But I give this an A. What about you, Max?
I'll give it an A, first of all. Great pick. Jets got the best scenario, but look, you got to take the guy. They got the guy. There's very little doubt in my mind. Adams is one of the guys who you look at Adams versus Hooker, and that's a comparison that I thought they'd both go in the top 10, so I think that comparison might, shy off a little bit, considering Hooker didn't go till 15. But you compare these two guys, and I have said since the beginning of the draft process, Hooker has a higher ceiling. Not by much, a little bit higher ceiling, but a lower floor. Adams, I think, at worst is a long-term starter, and at best is an all-pro safety. A game changer on defense, great pick by the Jets. And I know you guys are basking in the glory, and it's a great pick, and I give it an A too, but the real job for Maccagnan starts tomorrow, and here's why. I actually wrote an article this past week on Jet Fuel, went through data for 5 teams: the Jets, the Browns, the Jaguars, the Patriots, and the Steelers. So if you can guess why I did that, 2 teams who have been really bad, 2 teams that have been really good, and the Jets, which have kind of had a mixed bag. This is over a 15-year span. And from what I found by crunching the numbers and taking a lot of notes with my yellow legal pad, is that the Jets are actually not that bad at drafting in the first round, believe it or not. So since 2002, the Jets have drafted 14 prospects, and 6 of them have made a Pro Bowl. Now, the Patriots, 7 of 14. So, not too far off. The Jets, a couple misses and a couple of bad misses, but they got their guy. They got Mangold. They got Ferguson. They hit Leonard Williams, Muhammad Wilkerson. They got a couple of good picks. Round 2, the Jets have no Pro Bowlers. This is the moment where Mike Maccagnan, if he wants a successful rebuild, will need to hit in round 2. He has a couple of guys in his first 2 drafts, Devin Smith, Christian Hackenberg. We haven't seen much of them yet, but you can't say the expectations are that high for them. It really comes down to this. How do you piece together a team with so many needs and so few talented players on the roster? You need to fill them up. Rounds 2, 3, 4, they're critical. So great pick round 1. The ideal situation played out for the Jets. I think this draft still could be rough 5 years from now if Maccagnan and the Jets don't build on the rebuild in day 2 and 3.
I agree, Max, and I want to throw in one more name before the Maccagnan era. Another second rounder from recent years is Jason Morrow, who's not on the team anymore. It was another whiff in the second round, and I totally agree. We need to make the Jets need to make sure that they have another kind of a home run pick in round 2.
Now, Matt, you're taking notes over there.
Taking notes on what we're saying.
Well, let me just say I give the Jamal Adams grade an A, and I agree with what Max said in that.
Yeah.
So Mike Maccagnan now has gotten pretty damn lucky in his first 3 years as a GM, in the first round at least. He had Leonard Williams, whom a lot of people said was the best player in that draft class, fall into his lap at number 6. The difference between this pick, there's a couple. First of all, Adams was not – I don't think Adams is the best player in this draft class. I think Leonard Williams was a consensus best player, best prospect. Adams is second or third, which is not a problem. he also fills a glaring need, and Leonard Williams didn't at the time because they had Sheldon Richardson and Mo Wilkerson. So there's sort of some differences there, but that's what kind of makes this pick even more, given the circumstances, even more sort of crazy. I mean, you can really celebrate it a lot more because it's not. I remember when they picked Leonard Williams, I was, you were excited, but you were like, holy crap. So what does this mean for the rest of the defensive line depth? You're not going to be other than maybe Calvin Pryor or Marcus Gilchrist. Nobody's really getting sacrificed here with this Adams pick. It fills a huge need for the Jets. He was clearly the best player available. The reason why I'm taking notes is I'm looking at the draft board. I'm looking at NFL.com's best players available. I mean, there are a lot of players who the Jets could consider at number 39 because this draft has been so weird. So many teams like the Bears, Kansas City, who took Houston. Houston took Deshaun Watson. They traded up to 15 to get him. I mean, these teams are going crazy for quarterbacks. Thankfully, the Jets didn't get involved in that. But, that crazy activity to get these quarterbacks off the board, it's left a lot of good players still on the board, and I know we still have 5 more picks in the first round. But let me just list the guys who are still available as of right now at 10:16 p.m. or 11:16 p.m. Eastern. Tell me who fits best for you.
Okay.
David Njoku, tight end. Reuben Foster, linebacker. Dalvin Cook, running back. Ryan Ramczyk, offensive tackle. Forrest Lamp, offensive guard. Cam Robinson, offensive tackle. Tre'Davious White, another LSU player. He's a cornerback. Tim Williams, Alabama, outside linebacker. And TJ Watt and Jordan Willis are also outside linebackers still available. So these are all guys who could fit potential needs for the Jets who are still sitting on the board. Not all of them will probably make it through the rest of this night. But, I mean, I'm just using this as an example as saying, there are a ton of good players left, and the Jets could really hit a home run in these first 2 rounds. But pick a couple of guys off that list who you think could be a option.
Let me jump in first because you named 3 guys who I wrote the scouting reports for, and I liked all of them for nyjetfuel.com over this past couple of months, and they would be David Njoku. You got a tight end coming out of Miami, which has a great track record with tight ends, and Njoku is pretty good all around with very few flaws, in my opinion. TJ Watt, brother of JJ Watt, great edge rusher. And the third one would be Forrest Lamp, who I just was immediately attracted to back in December when I saw the name Forrest Lamp, which I just still can't get over, that his last name is Lamp. And that they decided, well, your first name should be Forrest. Anyway, the Jets could fill a need. I'm fascinated with it, but he's a versatile offensive lineman.
Look,
and
the Jets
people
might have done that with DeBrickashaw.
DeBrickashaw. That's when I really became a Jets fan, the day DeBrickashaw Ferguson was drafted. But seriously, Forrest Lamp is a very versatile offensive lineman who people like even Mike Mayock at the end of April moved to number 1 among all offensive linemen in his mock draft. He had Lamp going to Baltimore 16. So anyway, the Jets could fill a number of needs at number 39 with any kind of positions like that. I also like Tim Williams as another edge rusher option. Whether they go offense or defense, they just need to make sure they've got their guy. And I don't know a better way to really articulate that. Njoku is the one most fresh in my mind from writing about 2 weeks ago. And he's a fascinating one. And it would give the Jets offense another element.
Right. I like Njoku a lot. I think he'll be very good in the NFL. Give whoever plays at quarterback, give him a weapon. That's what Njoku is. I like Jordan Willis and not a lot. Never got to preview him for Jet Fuel, but a guy that I've watched film of and really enjoyed him. I said it on the podcast, I think he's one of the best defenders in the Big 12 in this draft class. I would like him. And it's a situation kind of like round 1 where, we get to picks 3, 4, 5, and you're like, all right, well, at least 3 of these guys will be on the board, and at least 2 of these guys will be on the board, and at least, you'll get to round 2, and the Jets will have their pick. You've seen some guys go earlier than expected, and because of that, the Jets will have their say. They have an early pick in the second round, so a lot to monitor, and the Jets really, with 3 picks in day 2, a second and 2/3, should really walk out of day 2 feeling like they got at least 2 guys that they could plug in and be starters right away.
Yeah, so we can completely agree that it was a good day number 1 for the New York Jets. But as we've talked about, it's all about building off of that. The Jets have 6 more picks as of right now, and we shall see how the Jets proceed at, I believe, pick number 39 Friday night. But we can say for now the Jets have hit a home run in the 2017 NFL Draft. Want to thank you very much for watching this video or listening to this podcast. Want to thank Max Marcilla at mmarcilla98 and Adam Zielonka at Adam_Zielonka for joining me for this. You can follow me at Real Matt Barbato and follow the site at New York Jet Fuel. Thanks very much for listening, watching, and we're going to have plenty more Friday and Saturday. The draft has only just begun, my friends, so get ready. This has been a Jet Fuel podcast.